Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. Journalists play an essential part in nurturing and upholding democratic governance. They deserve every necessary protection. Now, these are words of a UNESCO official, Audrey Azoulay. It is unfortunate, however, that in a banana republic, honest journalists are sent to the slaughter and furthermore deprived of justice. Raymond Gono, who is based in France, has received countless threats from the Bamenda regime for constantly exposing government loopholes and societal ills. Where is the press freedom in La République du Cameroon then? Well, this just goes on to explain how the corruption in La République du Cameroon is on the rise on a daily basis. Not only do they kill honest journalists who tell the truth, but also try to shut up others for trying to find out and reveal the perpetrators of the grievous act. Well, these and more we'll further dive into in tonight's Undaunted. And to usher us in, let's get the prime headlines.
All right, these are the prime headlines for today. We'll start with the numerous checkpoints dismantled in Bamenda. We can say that it is a win for drivers. Then also today, upcoming colonial La République du Cameroon senatorial election finally slaughters of democracy. I'm sure you want to see that story. The La République du Cameroon CPDM senatorial appointment will be officially released on the 12th of March 2023. Also today, La République du Cameroon government increases tax fares by 50 francs CFA. Cho Ayaba ADF kidnaps, allegedly, by the way, kidnaps SDF MP and requests 36 million francs CFA for her release. You can imagine. Lebanon County buzz again. I'm sure you want to see more of that report. And of course, we have sports as well. But let's get the news in detail.
The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with Undaunted ABC Amber News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution on Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amba TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed, with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amba TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Amazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Amazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambertv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
The Bamenda Ekok stretch of road, which is a portion of the transition African trade grounded for about a week now, is back to life. The drivers involved in transportation on this road were observing a sit-down strike action against the numerous La Republique du Cameroon police extortion checkpoints on that stretch. Well, Undaunted has a nose on this particular report and on the strike action as well, and has been reporting on the changes and twists recorded by the drivers. Since La Republique du Cameroon colonial authorities in Bamenda and in Ambazonia can only attempt to do the right and only after being pressured, these drivers resolved not to go to work till the colonial governor in Bamenda withdrew his boys from the road to curb this particular extortion. So we can say it's a win for them. Well, for Ambazonia, this is where we will begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. I am Oni Obala. How are you doing, sir?
Very well, Oni. Good evening, Ambazonians. Well, with the relentless pressure from the Bamenda Ekok drivers, the number of checkpoints have been reduced. There is nothing that Ambazonians gain from La Republique du Cameroon without pressure or a fight. Just like the drivers have won their fight, the fight for the restoration of the statehood of former British Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia will continue till victory comes. Power, it is not given, they say. They say it is seized.
Well, the indefinite strike action of the Bamenda Ekok drivers has been called after the colonial La Republique du Cameroon authorities complied. after maintaining sealed lists towards the strike action of the Bamenda drivers against La Republic Duquesne police extortion for days. The colonial drivers in Bamenda had yielded to the demands of the drivers. The drivers were against the numerous colonial La Republic Duquesne police checkpoints on the Bamenda to Ekog Road, with the only mission to force drivers at gunpoint to buy their way through.
After midday, the drivers are compelled to still shake hands financially with the same colonial control post. After midday, the same thugs will tell the drivers that the colonial La Republic du Cameroon controllers have changed and the drivers have to settle again. The above, and coupled with the fact that La Republic du Cameroon was constantly provoking the drivers with derogatory slangs like, if you don't like what we, that is the La Republic du Cameroon forces, are doing to you people, get a gun and go to the bush as Amba fighters. Now, the drivers, knowing their rights, said enough was enough. The colonial governor, Adolphe Lely Lafrique, reacted and the drivers were satisfied and resumed work. The colonial governor stopped the issue of the drivers settling at the same colonial checkpoint twice a day. That all drivers must have the needed documentation of their vehicles, and a vehicle with all the car documentation must not give a dime to a colonial La Republic policeman. Now, he equally gave a week of grace to the drivers to acquire all the necessary car documents.
Well, these changes can only come as a result of resilience in the drivers in mounting pressure to the point of sacrificing their work days observing a strike action. Those who think that any good can come from La Republic to Cameroon without Ambazonians putting in a strong, united, and persistent fight should probably rethink.
And now on to our next story. The final list of political parties vying for representation at the Colonial Cameroon Senate is out. The elections to bring in blind political aspirants are announced for March 2023. From the statistics presented by the list, the opposition political parties, by their numbers, cannot push for any democratic change via the polls. This is because the ruling CPDM party with dictator Paul Biya has the majority of approved lists by the so-called fair election body with the acronym ELECA.
Well, it is reported that President Paul Biya has stiffened the electoral system, making it rigid for any form of opposition to push through. It will be madness if these opposition party leaders still see elections as an option in the Cameroons, where the political playing ground is not leveled but crafted just to please President Paul Biya, who is paying the pipers, dictating the tune. Why are these opposition leaders still hoping in elections to change Cameroon with all the wars Biya has erected around him? Well, yesterday was the day set for the final list of the different political parties accepted by the colonial body in charge of elections in La Republique du Cameroon called ELECAN.
Now, the list published is evident that democracy has been killed in Cameroon, with the only way forward to flush the old dictator Biya and his aide-mates administrators out of their positions by the use of force. Now, from the list published yesterday, February 6, 2023, by the Colonial Elecam, a total of 32 lists were filled in from 13 political parties. After going through the files, 10 of the lists were rejected and 22 files were retained. Of the 22 accepted files, the Cameroon's People Democratic Movement, that is the CPDM, alone has 10 lists, with the 12 opposition parties having a single list each. This is an indirect message from the Colonial Elecam that on election matters in La Republique du Cameroon, the CPDM is untouchable.
Well, of the 10 files rejected, all the files are files from the opposition party and none from the ruling CPDM party. All the rejected files from the opposition parties were a calculated move to weaken the already paralyzed opposition parties. Now, the charade in the name of senatorial election is programmed for the 12th of March 2023, and the electorate is the councillors, of which is still the CPDM having the majority as a result of, corruption.
Now, the La Republique du Cameroon CPDM elections management body, ELECAM, has made public a list of the so-called political party. And now this is all the summary for this particular story. On to the next, we'll dive into it right after the break. The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with Undaunted ABC Amba News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution on Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amba TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amba TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Ambazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambatv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best. We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
All right, now that's about the elections in the Cameroons. The CPDM already wins before the elections even start. And now on to the increase in task. La République du Cameroon transporters are meticulous and shrewd and may triple the increase to the detriment of the common man and the silent majority who barely survive from hand to mouth. The colonial broke La République du Cameroon's government, through its colonial Ministry of Trade, has announced a 50 franc CFA increase in taxi fares across the national territory.
The information was made public by the Colonial La République du Cameroon's Maglo Mbaga Atangana Trade Minister on Tuesday, February 7th, 2023, during a consultation with La République du Cameroon's transporters trade unions. According to the Colonial La République du Cameroon Trade Minister, taxi fares will henceforth step up from 250 francs CFA to 300 francs CFA during the day, and from 300 francs CFA to 350 francs CFA by the night. Children from 0 to 6 years old will be transported free of charge. Those from 7 to 11 years will be transported for 7 francs CFA per kilometer, and those from 12 to 21 years old will be transported for 9 francs CFA per kilometer.
Okay, so it says persons with disabilities will be transported for 7 francs CFA per kilometer, while those from 22 years above will be transported for 14 francs CFA per kilometer. Many in different parts of the country are already complaining about the move as it follows a recent increase in the prices of petroleum products across the territory.
Well, Undaunted noted here in passing that La Republic du Cameroon could just be broke. I mean, very broke. La Republic is a nation that you could describe as a nation on life support, and even in Yaoundé, the nation's capital, energy is rationed. Water and electricity remain scarce, as it were, a very scarce commodity. Now, the tendency is that La Republic du Cameroon transporters are meticulous and should, and since the Yaoundé junta never follows up its decisions, they will certainly triple these to increase the detriment of the common man and the silent majority who barely survive from hand to mouth.
All right, now on to our next report. Honorable Wainachi Honorine, Undaunted gathers, was kidnapped at Bambui Tuba local government area last Sunday, February the 5th, 2023 by the Cho Ayaba ADF group for trespassing. The boys are asking for a ransom of 36 million francs CFA before they can release her. ADF, in tandem with the La Republic du Cameroon, through its BIR, has been very prominent and notorious in kidnappings and ransom takings since the war started in Amazonia.
Now, the case of the kidnapping of Senator Mundi and health workers at the hospital in Batibo local government area are still vivid. Honorable Wanachi Honorin is Member of Parliament for the opposition of Social Democratic Front SDF for Boyo County.
And with that, we go to the colonial La Republic du Cameroon's military as they've been killed, and the firepower in Labia Lane keeps boiling hot. La Republic du Cameroon's colonial military has been killed. Colonial SDO feared dead. News reaching Undaunted revealed that a few days to fake La Republic du Cameroon's Youth Day, the one we talked about 11 February, the colonial La Republic du Cameroon authorities, in a bid to blindfold the international community once more about the return to normalcy in Menji local government area, the regime crafted a solar panel project for streetlights that run from cooperative areas to Seat of Wisdom College area. The junta planned to use to stage manage projects to lure the people show up on D-Day, but it failed.
Well, the story goes that the colonial SDU and mayors left the neighboring La Republic du Cameroon town of Dichang for a fake inauguration, whose real motive was to force the lone community school in the area to dress up in La Republic du Cameroon's government primary school uniform and march on the 11th of February. But it did not work, as the proprietor of their school solar project sensed a rat and rejected for fear of the unknown. The colonial SDO devised another strategy and moved to Three Corner there, where a small market holds weekly with plans to convince the population. But unfortunately for him, the Red Dragons, who had laid ambush and were just waiting around, showed up in their numbers, killing the military and some colonial La Republic du Cameroon officials and sympathizers.
Now, as if this encounter, the wounded Red Dragons proceeded to Menji local government area in the enemy military camp at GTHS and confronted the colonial La Republic du Cameroon's military on a battle that saw the military desert in the area. The colonial La Republic du Cameroon's military helicopter made 2 separate attempts landing but failed. Unconfirmed reports say that the SDO might have been killed these skirmishes. Since yesterday, Mendy local government area is boiling, and at press time, Undaunted could not lay hands on images, but they will be coming probably in our subsequent news. On to our next report, just in case you've been wondering, so what next with the late Martinez Zogo? Well, today we bring you updates on how far getting justice for him has gone. Well, the Director General of the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, Audrey Azoulay, has warned that killers of Yaoundé-based journalist Martinez Zogo must not go unpunished.
In a release published after the journalist's mutilated body was found, the UNESCO boss condemned the killing and called on Cameroon's government to prioritize the safety of journalists in the country. He, Audrey Azoulay, said, and I quote, I condemn the killing of Martinez Zogo. I welcome the government's announcement that it is investigating this case, and I call on the authorities not to let this crime go unpunished, adding that journalists play an essential part in nurturing and upholding democratic governance. They deserve every necessary protection.
Now, UNESCO is among many non-governmental organizations that have condemned the murder of Martinez Zogo and called for the prosecution of his killers. Due to this and more pressure from citizens, neighboring La République du Cameroon's government has been turning the heat on the killers of journalist Martinez Zogo. But not just anyone is being arrested. Those implicated are the high and mighty. At least three of them are known to have been detained at the State Secretariat of Defense, the SED, for their alleged involvement in the journalist's murder.
Well, report says Doctors Without Borders said it was a state crime involving two barons of President Paul Biya's government. These three suspects include Maxime Eko Eko. Leopold Maxime Eko Eko is the head of Cameroon's Secret Service Police, known as the General Directorate of External Research. He was summoned to SED for questioning on February 1st in relation to Martinez Zogo's murder. This was after the arrest of his Deputy Lieutenant Colonel Justin Downway, Director of Operations at the DGRE, who is believed to have affected Martinez Zogo's kidnappings, torture, and murder, according to Jeune Afrique.
Well, Leopold Maxime Eko's name has regularly appeared as the man behind several arbitrary arrests and torture of Cameroonians, especially detainees of the Anglophone crisis. Danway also confessed in a testimony reported by RSF about the involvement of his boss Eko, Justice Minister Laurent Esso, and media billionaire Amugo Belinga in the murder of Martinez Zogo. Maxime Eko, a former director General Intelligence, author General Delegations of National Security, has headed the DGRE since 2010, where he is reported to have tracked and eliminated several enemies of the Biya regime. While he is being questioned by investigators, reports say he is now temporarily replaced by Moncoup Munimu, Deputy Director General of DGRE.
All right, the next is Raymond Echudi Nso. Thomas Raymond Echudi is a former commander of Cameroon's Presidential Guard and father-in-law to media billionaire Jean-Pierre Amugo Belingwa. Echudi Nso was arrested alongside his son-in-law in the early hours of February 6 in Yaoundé. It is alleged that Nsoyi, father of Melissa, Amugo Belinga's youngest wife, was also arrested for his alleged involvement in journalist Martinez Zogo's murder.
Now, Thomas Raymond Etundi Nso was replaced as Biya's presidential guard after gunshots were fired around Biya's convoy in Yaoundé. He was then hired by Amugo Belinga. It is also reported that the latter owns a security company, which notably ensured the protection of the home of Amugo Belinga. And finally, Amugo Belinga. Jean-Pierre Amugo Belinga is the CEO of L'Anecdote Media Group, a multinational media company that also owns Vision 4 Television and an Anecdote newspaper in Cameroon. He was arrested on Monday, February 6th, alongside his close aide and employee, Bruno Bijan, and father-in-law, Raymond Etundi Nso.
Belinga is a prime suspect in the murder of Martinez Zogo. According to reports RSF published last week, the billionaire was one of those who called the shots on Martinez Zogo. RSF said he personally tortured Zogo upon his abduction, and the torture operation was carried out in a building owned by Amugo Belinga. His media company, NDAUNTED, confirmed in a release on Monday that he had been arrested for an investigation, but did not link it to the murder of Martinez Zogo.
Now, Amugo Belinga is certainly a well-established and connected businessman who dines with top members of government. The late journalist Martinez Zogo usually criticized the businessman and had been investigating embezzlement allegations against him when he was gruesomely murdered.
Amugo Bellinger and co., that is Amugo Bellinger and Bruno Bijang, and other aforementioned are not the only persons currently detained in connection with Martinez Zogo's death. On February 2nd, the government said several persons had been arrested, but none of their names were mentioned.
Now, among the high-profile people implicated in the murder of Zogo is the Minister of Justice and keeper of the seals, Lauren Esso. He is said to have ordered the abductors to finish the job, according to a testimony of Justin Downway captured by RSF in the report. Now, part of this information is Kotsi Tata Mbunwe. While diving deeper into this case, Amugu Bellinger had reportedly denied his involvement in the journalist murder, although a testimony by one of the suspects, Justin Danway, directly linked him to the killing.
Like we told you, the media billionaire was arrested Tuesday alongside two of his close associates, including his father-in-law Raymond Etudianto and employee Bruno Bijang. That's all we have for now on the arrested suspects, but going further into these journalists' bullying and silencing.
Well, the renowned whistleblower and journalist J.P. Remingono recounts how he was offered 70 million francs CFA, an equivalent of 114,600 US dollars, to stop talking about the murder case of Martinez Zogo. Just when the voices of everyone asking for justice is picking through, Remingono got a message from an unknown person through WhatsApp asking him to stop his campaign against Amugo Bellinger, who is being held and questioned by gendarmerie officials about the brutal killing of Zogo.
Remingono took time to show that top Cameroonian officials were involved in the plot to kill Zogo from the time he was taken hostage until his death. Well, he says, we will get hold of your informants in La Republic de Cameroon one by one. Since you have turned down the offer, you will also lose your Facebook and YouTube accounts, the unnamed individual said. Remy Ngono, who is based in France, has received countless threats from the Yaoundé regime for constantly exposing government loopholes and societal ills.
Well, this just goes a long way to show that the corruption in La Republique du Cameroon is on the rise on a daily basis. Not only do they kill honest journalists who tell the truth, but also try to shut up others for trying to find out and reveal the perpetrators of the grievous act.
All right, I'm moving on to the foreign scene. Report says a death toll has risen to 20,000. Combined death tolls nears 20,000. The combined death toll in Turkey and Syria from Monday's devastating earthquake has risen to 19,800. The Turkish president Recep Tayyip Erdogan announced that 16,546 had died, after records earlier in the afternoon stood at 16,170. Now, state media in Syria said the death toll in government-held areas had risen to 1,347, up from 1,262. Earlier, the White Helmet Civil Defense Group said 1,930 had been reported dead in rebel-held areas in northwest of the country.
Now, experts have said the toll of both dead and injured is expected to continue to rise sharply in the coming days. Banks of tents are being erected in stadiums and shuttered city centers to house hundreds of thousands of people made homeless by the Turkey-Syria earthquake. And while Mediterranean and Asian beach resorts outside the quake zone are opening up hotel rooms for evacuees, according to Reuters report.
With some 6,500 buildings collapsed and countless more damaged, hundreds of thousands of people lack safe housing. Syrian refugee Bajat Zello, 62 years he is, and his family have camped near their cinder block cement and corrugated metal home in the Kahramanmaras since the quake created cracks in its walls. At a tent city set up in a stadium in Kahramanmaras, long lines of brigade residents queued up to receive steaming kebabs and dug through bags of donated warm clothing.
Meanwhile, the Disaster and Emergency Management Authority calculates that more than 28,000 homeless people have been brought out of the quake zone so far, with nearly 5,000 leaving by road and more than 23,000 by plane. The Turkish Hoteliers Federation said thousands of rooms had been allocated in resorts such as Antalya, Alanya, Marmaris, Fethiye, Bodrum, as well as Izmir and Cappadocia.
On the other side, UK Amata, head of the Professional Hotel Managers Association, told reporters that 15,729 people had been accommodated in state guest houses, student dormitories and hotels, while in Antalya alone, 11,165 evacuees were in hotels. And sports comes up after this break. And in sports, Real Madrid have secured their place in the Club World Cup final with a 4-1 win against Egyptian club El Ahly to keep alive their quest for a record-extending 8th world title.
Well, in American football, NFL player Damar Hamlin, who collapsed from cardiac arrest during a game last month, has made a surprise appearance during Super Bowl week. Well, Gab Ellison has more.
Latest world sports. Football. FA Cup fourth round draw. Manchester City to face Arsenal or Oxford. Manchester City will host Arsenal or Oxford United in the FA Cup fourth round after they beat Chelsea. Reading manager Paul Ince will return to Old Trafford to face former club Manchester United. Brighton will host either Liverpool or Wolverhampton Wanderers, while Preston North End will welcome Tottenham Hotspur, and National League side Wrexham will take on Sheffield United. The fourth round will take place from 27th to 30th January. Elsewhere, Sheffield Wednesday will face fellow League One side Fleetwood Town after they knocked out Newcastle United, while Blackpool will travel to Southampton after their 4-1 win over Nottingham Forest. Draw in full: Preston vs Tottenham, Southampton vs Blackpool, Wrexham vs Sheffield United, Ipswich vs Burnley, Manchester United vs Reading, Luton Town or Wigan vs Grimsby Town, Derby County vs West Ham, Stoke City vs Stevenage, Blackburn vs Forest Green Rovers or Birmingham City, Walsall vs Leicester City, Sheffield Wednesday vs Fleetwood Town, Manchester City vs Oxford United or Arsenal, Bristol City or Swansea vs Chesterfield or West Brom, Brighton vs Liverpool or Wolves, Fulham vs Sunderland, Boreham Wood or Accrington Stanley vs Cardiff or Leeds. American football. NFL Week 18. Seahawks and Dolphins claim playoff spots as Aaron Rodgers' Packers miss out. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers miss out on the NFL playoffs after losing 2016 at home to the Detroit Lions in a dramatic ending to the regular season. The Seattle Seahawks got in at Green Bay's expense, while the Philadelphia Eagles secured top spot in the NFC and the Dallas Cowboys limped into the playoffs. The Buffalo Bills had an emotional victory against the New England Patriots to help the Miami Dolphins pinch the final AFC playoff spot. After an impressive recovery from 4-8 with 4 straight victories, the Packers were in control of their destiny, needing a win at home against the Detroit Lions, who found out just before kickoff that they've been eliminated from playoff contention. The Seattle Seahawks had earned a dramatic overtime victory over the Los Angeles Rams, meaning only Green Bay could deny them in the 271st and very last game of the regular season. And fittingly for this season, nothing went quite as expected. The Lions kept it close despite having nothing to play for. The Packers had a player ejected, and Rodgers threw a late interception in what could well be his final act in the NFL. Rookie Kirby Joseph became the first player to intercept Rodgers 3 times in one season. and whether the 39-year-old, named the NFL's most valuable player 4 times, will be back next season is still unknown. Rodgers is under contract with Green Bay for next season, but has repeatedly cast doubt on whether he will return. It's now the Seahawks who travel to the San Francisco 49ers next week in the playoffs after rookie quarterback Brock Purdy led the Niners to a 10th straight victory and the second seed in the NFC. Gab Ellison reporting from Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
All right, and with that sports report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's take a look at our major highlights.
Well, in tonight's Undaunted, we looked at the numerous La Republic du Cameroon checkpoints that were dismantled, a win for the drivers, and also the upcoming colonial La Republic du Cameroon senatorial elections, the final list slaughters democracy. Also, the La Republic du Cameroon CPDM senatorial appointments to be officialized March 12, 2023.
Right, today we told you that La Republic du Cameroon's government increases tax fares by 50 francs CFA. Cho Ayaba ADF kidnaps SDF MP, requests 36 million francs CFA for her release. Also today, Lebanon County buzz again. All right, and that was it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing you the news on church stories. On behalf of my co-anchor, Star Smart, and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.